My name's Matt Aldridge. I am Principal Solutions Consultant at OpenText Security Solutions. So we comprise Carbonite and WebRoot, and also a couple of recent acquisitions that I'll mention later. My role is involved in working with other cybersecurity vendors and service providers on how they can integrate our threat intelligence and our malware classification and web classification solutions into their own products to make them better. So actually many of the vendors you see here today are our partners who are using our services in one way or another. We have over 150 partners. So I've been doing that for 8 years. So I have a slightly different perspective on threat intelligence and on threats and the industry as a whole. But today we're talking a bit about predictions. I thought, since this is the Future of Cybersecurity conference, let's get out there and just try and come up with some ideas about what might be happening. So I wanted to quickly look at where we are today, how we got here briefly, so we can put that in context, and then we can maybe have some ideas about where things might be going. So first of all, like I said, we want to know where we are. But firstly, attacks, one thing about attacks is that they never get worse, they only get better. And when it comes to cybersecurity, if you can think it, somebody will probably do it. So hence the pigs flying. And enjoyed listening to Sarah talking earlier about the metaverse, and I can imagine in the future there'll be pigs just like this flying over our heads and dropping virtual malware onto our avatars and things like that. But the best way to predict the future is to study the past, and the past behavior is a very strong indicator of future behavior. These are the main things we have to work with when we're trying to make these predictions. So let's try and understand the current situation. Looking at how we got here, Ben earlier did a great job of talking about the first item on the agenda here from 1989, the AIDS Trojan, back in the days of floppy disks being used to send these things around. And what I wanted to really highlight with this is how the actual payment process has really unleashed a lot of the ransomware and cybercrime issues upon us as an industry. So in the early days, like Ben said, you had to post a check off to Panama to pay to get your password to unlock your machine, but actually it wasn't very well locked in the first place. Then we had this GP code attack. There's a slight mistake on this slide. It wasn't a floppy disk in those days. We did have websites then. But GP code, to pay for that, this was still in the pre-crypto days. There was something called e-gold, where you could have a bank account, but basically instead of your balance being in dollars or pounds, it was actually in grams of gold. And people could happily exchange these grams of gold with each other in all kinds of different ways. What could possibly go wrong? And so that didn't end well. But it was used for quite a lot of money laundering and criminal activities, along with another organization called Liberty in some Caribbean island. And both of those things ended up getting closed down. But then what happened with Bitcoin coming out and other cryptocurrencies alongside it was that unlocked unleashed the kind of weaponry for these criminals, because they could then happily go and gather money in and find ways to easily launder it and not be very easily tracked. Now, of course, with the blockchain, every transaction is tracked, so it does make it quite tricky. But there's things like mixers and tumblers, and now what we have is DeFi, so decentralized finance solutions that are using like cryptocurrency and blockchain technology to allow automated and integrated financial services to be delivered sort of at the blockchain level, and so. What that means is that criminals have all sorts of new fancy ways to move money around and make that trail even harder to follow. They can feed it into hedge funds and then back out into other kinds of investments and make it very hard for law enforcement to keep up with. So something like $8.6 billion was laundered through cryptocurrency and exchanges last year. And about a third of that was laundered through this kind of DeFi solution and different ways of doing that, and that's just massively on the rise. So these things keep getting, the situation keeps getting worse from tracking criminals down, and law enforcement have been getting very creative about how they've been trying to cast their net around these guys to keep them under control. So moving on, breaches, this is the reason why we keep seeing many different breaches alongside all the vulnerabilities that are out there. I love always putting these slides up because it's just something nice to look at. The one on the right, the Cineverse one, doesn't actually have a number on it, but that's 500,000 records as well. And those were lost over a period of 5 years, and we've only just found out about it. So these were like records of mobile phone users around the world and their personal details just been lost over all that time, and nobody realized. So, we call it the era of the breach, and we'll talk a bit more about that. But the main target of most of these breaches is users, either the personal information of users, but primarily the actual users themselves. How can I abuse a person? How can I socially engineer that person to get them to do what I want? Maybe I'm going to bribe that person or compromise them in some other way to get in, to get my money that I want at the end of the day. They're my entry point into my money. And you can see here, 85% of those breaches directly involve a human element. So absolutely crucial to be taking great care of all your people and all your contractors as well as your staff, and doing that education piece to make sure they really are comfortable and fully trained to operate in a secure way, whatever it is they're doing for you. On top of that, there's stolen credentials. Credential breaches, 61%, so the weak credentials, stolen, reused credentials, so password managers, and moving forward in other ways, which we can talk about later as well. And then we've heard a bit earlier about, we heard all day about ransomware and different extortion. So on this slide, I'm talking about quadruple extortion. I think I'm going to change it to something like multivector extortion, because there's so many different ways that it gets done, and it keeps getting worse. But the traditional kind of way that ransomware began was simply, we're going to encrypt your files. If you want to get them back, you need to pay us the money. We've probably encrypted your backups as well, or disabled them. So that was great to start with, but then people wanted to get paid more. They wanted to get paid quicker, so they're trying to put more pressure on. And so they're stealing the data before they encrypt it. They'll exfiltrate it out very quietly, try not to get detected, because that would spoil their whole game. Once they've got the data out, then fire off the encryption, and then they've got multiple levers to pull to try and get that money out of the targeted company. But that's still not good enough. We want to get worse. We want to give them more pressure. We want to get paid quicker. We want to get paid more. So then out comes the DDoS weapon, distributed denial of service. We're going to take you down. We're going to knock you off the web. We maybe destroy your APIs, stop you being able to do business. You can't take orders or whatever it is you're doing. And then finally, the quadruple piece is taking all the information we've already stolen from you and using that against you. So maybe we know about all your employees. We can contact them directly on their personal phone numbers and tell them about how damaged you are as a company, and tell them secret things that they really shouldn't know. Or we could contact your partners, your customers, the press, whatever it may be. So all these things come together into a horrible mess, and that's why we're all here trying to avoid it. Another big thing that we need to put in context is the supply chain attacks, and we've heard great things about that earlier today as well. And firstly, one of the key ones was a good partner of ours, and I'm sure many of you, SolarWinds, who are there to help people monitor and manage their networks and keep them secure. The key thing about these kinds of attacks is that you can't see them coming. And it's a big problem for everyone, and these things could happen to anyone in the industry. So we all need to learn from this. So, here I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone. We're just trying to learn what we can from these types of attacks so we can stop them going forward. And this is where somebody's getting into a system and over time making changes to code that gives them a backdoor, that gives them an edge, a way of breaking into anyone who's using that software later on down the line. This one was done over many months and very, very carefully and slowly, so it wasn't detected, and all kinds of havoc was wreaked on the back of that. CodeCov is another one where it's a tool in the kind of build and development process, getting compromised, and people relying on components that are getting compromised as part of their development cycle and potentially at risk from that. Kaseya, another big partner of ours, and we just heard from them. Very nasty attack there. And the challenge has been, the people that are using software like this need it to have very deep and broad access into their customers' systems so that they can look after those customers. It's not a case of, they were given too many privileges. They needed those privileges, and that's why they were the target. That's why their software was a target. And luckily, with various negotiations, decryption keys were made available, and that problem kind of went away. But we need to know that these things are still going to happen in the future. So how do we deal with it? And then Log4j, we've all heard too much about that. Log4Shell, and again, components, software components. How do we deal with that? So what's going to happen next? Well, I can assure you that something like this there's going to be another entry on this slide, probably in the next couple of months, that we're going to need to worry about. Very difficult to defend against. You have to be able to trust your vendors. You have to be able to buy products and services and use them and take risk away as much as possible. But there's nothing is ever without risk, and so we need to understand those risks. Those tools, like I said, they do need the high access and the privilege, and we need to update them. We have to patch them. When there's a vulnerability, we've got to patch it. But with every patch we're rolling out, there is a risk that there's something bad in that patch. We can't go and disassemble every piece of code to try and work out what it's going to do. So we need to isolate everything we can and take this kind of zero trust approach, absolute to the extreme that we can do to analyze and detect when anything's going wrong. We have these things called software bills of materials. So you'll be able to, when you're buying a product, get a list of all the components that are used within that product so that you can actually make sure that if some component is at risk or has been a vulnerability has been discovered, you can hold your vendors to account to say, have you patched this yet? When are you going to patch it? What do I do to mitigate it? What are my IDS rules or whatever it is that I can do to mitigate that threat straight away? So they're in their infancy. I think we will see more of those, and that's going to be a big change for vendors. I think they're not going to like doing it, but I think it's a really important thing for the industry to do. So whatever next. So here's some predictions that we've come up with. We will, do what we can, whiz through these. We haven't got much time left. IoT, bigger DDoS attacks. There's over 30 different types of DDoS already, and there's going to be more, and they're going to be bigger. We know that, so we need to prepare for that. Elections, we've seen so many attacks against information, attacks against elections, trying to manipulate them. That's not going to go away. There's going to be more social media bots and attacks and information abuse going on. We've got other vulnerabilities, again, critical vulnerabilities that we're going to see, and the whole bidding wars between the good guys and the bad guys and the governments all trying to get hold of these zero-day attacks so that they can use them themselves. We heard a bit earlier about adversarial AI as well. This is obviously a big thing when we're using AI tools to protect ourselves. What if somebody knows exactly what those tools are doing, how they were built, or how they were designed, and they can use that against us? So we need to be ready for that as well. Passwords, they're almost going. We're really feeling that they're starting to go. We're getting passwordless authentication, getting great single sign-on solutions. Hopefully we can cross that line and really kill those off as soon as possible. Ransomware, we have this idea that, firstly with ransomware, we're seeing that there is a faster time deployment, a faster time to encrypt, trying to evade detection, evade that response delay. So the quicker they can get it done in and out the door, the quicker they can get paid and the less chance there is of that attack failing. But also, there's more pressure now for people not to pay ransoms. There's a lot of pressure around disclosure. So I foresee that there'll be these kind of stealth attacks where people will go in and provide evidence that they own you completely, but they won't necessarily do it in a way that anyone knows about, and they will just contact the people they want them to pay to stop that attack and keep it under the radar. So I think that's something else we might see. Rebranding, yeah, we see the kind of death of ransomware gangs, and then they kind of rise from the flames with different names, with the same tools, and that's going to continue, making the attribution more difficult. New innovations, such as changing files rather than just encrypting them. What if somebody changes the bank accounts on payments that you have scheduled and things like that? So how are you going to detect that? So these are new things that might be coming down the line. I'm running short on time now, so just whiz on quickly so you guys can get to your break. And just go through here. So yeah, Windows 11 is interesting because you've got the Linux environment built into it. You've now got Android optionally built into it as well. So we might see ransomware that's actually coming in through APK Android apps or through Linux kind of sandbox escapes and things. So you know, this is Windows 11 is great, and there's security evolution there, but there's more what we call living off the land opportunities as well, and we'll see some interesting creative uses of those over the course of this year as well. So I think that's it really from the predictions type. I just want to say thank you. Please come and talk to us about cyber resilience. We can give you a lot of great information about that downstairs. We've got an ebook that we've just released with IDC, and I'll be around afterwards as well in the break. So thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Fantastic.